The crystal drums thundered through the imperial selection chamber, their resonance making Lyrian's bones ache as she knelt in the servants' corridor, scrubbing blood from marble floors. Another rejected Omega had been dragged away moments ago, leaving crimson streaks across pristine stone. Faster, blind worm! Overseer Calox hissed, his boot connecting with her ribs. The next group arrives within minutes. Lyrian bit back a cry, her sightless eyes remaining downcast as she worked. She had been raised in the Celestial Palace since infancy, one of many orphans taken to serve. Now, at 19 years of age, she had learned that silence meant survival. The chemical suppressants forced upon all servants dulled not just their sense, but their very essence. Though few would believe a blind servant could be anything beyond a beta anyway. Through the open archway, she could hear the grand ceremony continuing. Noble Omegas from across the Oriate Empire had gathered for this once-in-a-generation event. Alpha King Theron Nightshade would finally select his mate. For 3 days, the competitions had raged, displays of beauty, wit, power, and submission. 1,000 had entered. Only 50 remained. Pathetic, a noblewoman's voice drifted through. Did you see Lady Celestine faint when he merely looked at her? Lyrian's fingers found familiar rhythm in her work, the rough texture of stone and the metallic scent of blood guiding her movements. She had learned to navigate through sound, smell, and touch, counting steps, memorizing echoes, feeling air currents that warned of obstacles. The king's presence she knew only through the change in atmosphere when he passed through the palace, the way even the walls seemed to bow to his power. She cleaned his private chambers during his campaign absences, guided by the palace matrons who dictated her every move. A commotion erupted in the main hall. Screams, then shocked gasps, the sharp crack of breaking glass. Mistress Nixara has challenged Lady Morghese to a blood duel. Move, worthless creature! Calox grabbed Lyrian's arm, yanking her upright. They need the purification salts. Now! Lyrian stumbled forward, the heavy crystalline container clutched against her chest. She knew the path by heart. 17 steps to the archway, turn left, 43 steps to the ceremonial platform. But as she entered the main chamber, the overwhelming sense of 1,000 Omegas in heat fever hit her like a physical blow. Even through her suppressants, her body responded, treacherous warmth blooming beneath her skin. She forced herself forward, counting steps, when suddenly everything went silent. The drums stopped. Even the whispers ceased. Stop. The king's voice, deep as mountain caverns, cut through the stillness. Lyrian froze. She was only halfway to the platform, surrounded by nobles whose silk robes whispered with their restless movement. One of her suppressant patches must have torn when Calox kicked her. She could feel the adhesive peeling away from her neck, cool air kissing exposed skin. My Lord King, Chancellor Draco spoke carefully. Perhaps the excitement of that scent. The word carried alpha command, though not directed at anyone specifically. Still, every person in the room responded instinctively, Omegas baring their throats, Betas bowing low. Even Lyrian felt her knees weaken, though she fought to remain standing. She heard his footsteps, slow, deliberate, predatory, descending from the throne. The crowd parted with rustling fabric and held breaths. Her heart hammered so hard she was certain everyone could hear it. You, servant. Lyrian's unseeing eyes remained fixed downward. Your Majesty. Look at me. I cannot, Your Majesty. I have been blind since birth. A collective gasp rippled through the chamber, followed by disgusted murmurs. Your suppressants are failing, the king observed, and she could feel him circling her slowly, the heat of his presence moving around her like a living thing. Interesting. 19 years of chemical suppression, yet your true nature breaks through at this exact moment. Please, Lyrian whispered, terror coursing through her veins. The punishment for a servant concealing their designation was death. An Omega, he announced to the room, and the nobles erupted in outrage. "Kill her!" Lady Morgessa shrieked. "She's contaminated the ceremony!" But the king raised his hand, and silence fell like a blade. He stopped directly in front of her, and she could feel heat radiating from his massive frame, smell something wild and ancient beneath his controlled exterior. "Tell me, Omega," he said, switching to the old tongue that she shouldn't understand, but did, thanks to years of listening to the blind archivists who maintain the palace's oldest texts. "Do you know the prophecy of the sundered souls?" Lyrian's breath caught. She had heard the archivists whispering about it, an ancient prediction about twins of power born apart, destined to either unite or destroy. It speaks of two halves of one whole, Your Majesty," she answered carefully in the same language, aware of the shocked silence around them. "And what must happen when they meet? They must choose completion or catastrophe." "Indeed." His voice dropped to something more intimate. "Your name?" "Lyrian, Your Majesty." Lyrian. He tasted the word. "Do you know what happened to your suppressant patch just now? It didn't tear. It burned away. Your Omega nature didn't simply break through. It was called forth." "Your Majesty," Chancellor Dracos interrupted urgently, "surely this servant cannot be what you're suggesting." The king's growl silenced him. Then, shocking everyone present, King Theron Nightshade knelt before the blind servant girl. "Give me your hand," he commanded softly. Lyrian trembled. "Your Majesty, I don't understand." "Your hand, Lyrian." With shaking fingers, she extended her hand. He took it gently, his massive palm engulfing hers, and the moment their skin touched, the world exploded. Power raced between them, ancient and overwhelming. Through that single touch, she perceived him. Not with sight, but with something deeper. A massive wolf made of living darkness, not cursed but incomplete, searching desperately for its missing piece. He saw her too, she realized, the suppressed power that had been slowly poisoning her from within, the light magic that blazed beneath chemical restraints, the other half of an ancient whole. "The sundered souls," someone breathed. "It's not a prophecy. It's a warning." "Silence!" Theron rose, pulling Lyrian against him protectively. "The selection is over." "This is madness." Lord Valdris stepped forward. "You cannot choose a servant." "The bloodlines." The king's free hand moved in a gesture Lyrian couldn't see, but she heard Valdris crash to his knees, choking. "Anyone else wish to question destiny?" Terrified silence. "I hereby declare the selection ended." He pressed something cool and metallic into Lyrian's palm. The weight and shape told her it was the royal seal. "She will bear my mark." "Your Majesty," Lyrian whispered desperately, "I am not worthy. I am blind, born to no house, raised in servitude. I know nothing of being." "You know survival," he interrupted. "You know endurance. You know humility. These nobles know only privilege." His thumb traced her jaw. "And you are not nothing. You are the lost half of my soul." Before she could protest, his fangs extended. She heard the gasps from the crowd, and sank deep into the junction where her neck met her shoulder. This was no ordinary marking bite. Agony exploded through her body, but beneath it, something else. Visions flooded her consciousness. Ancient magic that predated the Empire itself, the first Alpha and Omega, one being split by jealous gods. Each generation, the halves reborn, searching for each other. Most died never knowing what they missed. The few who found each other either ascended to godhood or destroyed everything in their failure to unite. The vision shattered as he pulled away, and Lyrian collapsed, convulsing. She could feel something spreading from the bite, changing her at a molecular level. "What did you do?" she gasped, her body feeling as if it were being unmade and reborn simultaneously. "What I had to," he said, catching her as she fell. "You're the only one who can survive what I am. But if you don't survive the transformation," his voice cracked, "then I finally get to follow you into the abyss I've been circling my entire life." As consciousness fled, Lyrian heard Chancellor Dracos whisper, "The sundering ends. Gods, help us all." Lyrian woke to sensation beyond pain, every nerve ending reconstructing itself, every cell dividing and evolving. She tried to scream, but only a whimper escaped her raw throat. "She's burning through the sedatives too quickly," an unfamiliar healer said. "Her body's rejecting everything we give her." "Double the dose," Chancellor Dracos commanded. "It could kill her." "She's dying anyway. Do it." A needle pierced her arm and blessed coolness flooded her veins for exactly 3 heartbeats before the fire returned with vengeance. This time, she did scream. "Everyone out." The king's voice cut through her haze of agony. "Now." "Your Majesty, you shouldn't be alone with—" "Out!" Footsteps fled. A door slammed. Then only her labored breathing and his presence filled the room. The bed shifted under his weight, and his hand, cooler than she expected, pressed against her burning forehead. Through her pain, she smelled forest rain and iron will, power barely leashed. "I'm sorry," he whispered, vulnerability cracking his voice. "I should have prepared you. Should have waited. But when I sensed you in that chamber, after years of slowly dying apart, I couldn't—" He paused. "The suppressants weren't just hiding you, Lyrian. They were killing you. Another year, perhaps 2, and your light magic would have consumed you from within, just as my shadows have been devouring me." She tried to speak, but her throat wouldn't cooperate. He seemed to understand anyway. "We're 2 halves of the sundered souls," he explained. "The first beings were too powerful, so the gods split them out of fear. Each generation, the halves are reborn. If they find each other and successfully unite, they transcend mortality. If they fail—" His fingers traced the spreading patterns from her bite mark. "The magical backlash destroys everything within leagues." The door burst open. "Your Majesty!" A guard's panicked voice. "Attack on the servants' quarters." "Lady Morgesse's faction. They've poisoned the water supply." Lyrian's heart clenched. Zara, her young friend who brought her meals. Old Henrik, who told stories. All the invisible people who had been her family. "How many?" The king's voice turned lethal. 17 dead already, more falling ill. Despite her agony, Lyrian tried to rise. She had to help them. "Don't," Theron commanded, but she resisted, her hand finding his wrist. Where their skin touched, energy erupted, not painful but revelatory. She perceived through the connection, not with sight, but with understanding. His shadow wasn't a curse but half of an ancient power, incomplete and therefore destructive. Just as her light magic was eating her alive, his darkness was consuming him. They had perhaps weeks to live apart. Together, they might have forever. Or nothing. "We're both dying," she managed to whisper, her voice rough but determined. "Apart. We're already dead." "Yes," he breathed, "but together. Together we're whole." She squeezed his hand weakly. "Go. Save them. I'll survive until you return." "If I leave you now—" The bond started. "I can feel your shadows protecting my light even now." She pressed his palm to the mark. "We're connected. Go." He kissed her forehead, a surprisingly tender gesture, then strode out. Alone, Lyrian focused on breathing, on surviving, on the strange sensation of shadow-touched light pulsing through her veins. Time became fluid. She heard voices periodically, healers checking vitals, servants whispering prayers, but mostly there was transformation. Her bones didn't just ache, they reformed. Her blind eyes remained sightless, but something else was building behind them, pressure growing in the center of her forehead. Then familiar footsteps in the hallway. Calox. Perfect timing, he said to someone. The king's distracted with the servant crisis. You're certain this will work? Lord Valdris replied, apparently recovered from his earlier discipline. Shadowbane poison, concentrated from the old mountain monasteries. One drop on her lips, and not even the king's power can save her. They entered her room. She could smell the acrid poison, hear the crystal vial being uncorked. Her body wouldn't respond to her commands to flee or fight. Look at her, Calox sneered. Pathetic creature. Should have died in the servant halls where she belonged. The poison touched her lips, and her forehead exploded with golden light. A third eye opened, blazing with divine fire. The poison evaporated instantly. Both men screamed as golden marks spread across their skin where the poison had splashed. Impossible, Valdris gasped. The third eye is myth. Lyrian sat up, and though her birth eyes remained blind, she could finally see. Not colors or shapes, but truth itself. Valdris's soul was a withered thing, eaten by ambition. Calox's was worse, a void that fed on suffering. 19 years, she said, her voice carrying new harmonics. 19 years you made me believe I was worthless. But suffering doesn't break light, it refines it. Her power exploded outward in a golden wave. It touched every servant in the palace, dissolving their suppressants instantly. It touched the poisoned ones, neutralizing toxins and healing damaged tissue. It revealed hidden truths throughout the palace, which nobles had servant lovers, which guards showed mercy, which masters showed cruelty. Miles away, Theron felt the blast and knew his mate had not just survived, she had evolved. When Theron returned to find Valdris and Calox unconscious, their bodies covered in golden script that looked suspiciously like confession marks, he found Lyrian standing by the window. The mark on her neck had transformed, intricate patterns of darkness and radiance that moved like living calligraphy across her skin. You've awakened, he observed. Not sight, she clarified, turning toward him. Her birth eyes remained clouded, but the third eye in her forehead emanated soft golden light. I perceive truth now, the essential nature of all things. What do you see when you look at me? A wolf made of starlight and void, beautiful and terrible. She moved closer with newfound grace, no longer stumbling or counting steps. You knew, didn't you? 3 years ago, when I first cleaned your chambers, you recognized what I was. He met her approaching figure steadily. Your scent, even through suppressants, called to me, but you were 16, terrified, powerless. To claim you then would have been monstrous. So you avoided me instead. I rearranged my entire existence to avoid you, he admitted. Changed schedules, took longer campaigns, anything to keep distance between us. Because I knew the moment we truly met, neither of us could resist destiny. And in avoiding me, you left me to Calox's mercies. I had him disciplined regularly. Every mark he left on you, my shadows left 3 on him. But removing him would have drawn attention to you. He looked at the unconscious overseer. A mistake I regret. Your shadows were busy elsewhere, Lyrian said, not accusingly but observationally. Protecting the empire, fighting wars, maintaining order. A single servant's suffering seemed insignificant. Never insignificant. Just, he paused, necessary evil. Or so I told myself. The door opened and Chancellor Dracos entered with several healers. Your Majesty, the situation grows dire. Every kingdom has sent messages. They know the third eye has awakened. Their armies mobilize as we speak. How long? Theron asked. 2 days, perhaps 3 before they reach our borders. But there's more immediate concern. Dracos gestured to the window. The servants throughout the city, their suppressants have all failed. Chaos spreads. Omegas discovering they're actually alphas. Alphas learning they're something else entirely. The social order collapses. Good, Lyrian said firmly. False order deserves collapse. You don't understand the implications? I understand perfectly. Her third eye blazed brighter. For centuries, the kingdoms have used chemical suppression to maintain artificial hierarchies. How many died never knowing their true nature? How many suffered believing they were lesser? It maintained peace, Dracos argued. It maintained control, Theron corrected, surprising everyone. I've always known the system was corrupt, but changing it meant war with every established power. And now war comes anyway, Lyrian observed, because we exist. A younger healer stepped forward nervously. Your Majesty, the lady's transformation isn't complete. If the bonding ritual isn't finished within the next day, both your magics will destabilize, the resulting explosion would level the capital, Theron finished. Yes, we're aware. There's more, the healer continued. The ritual requires 3 elements: mutual consent, absolute trust, and genuine sacrifice. You have consent, but trust between you remains fractured, and neither has sacrificed anything of true value. Thunder rolled across clear skies despite no clouds. The incomplete bond was affecting natural law. How do we build trust in ours when we're strangers? Lyrian asked. You're not strangers, Draco said quietly. You've been circling each other for 3 years. You know each other's habits, preferences, the rhythm of each other's lives. You just never spoke. Speaking isn't knowing, Lyrian countered. An explosion rocked the palace. Through the window they could see the selection hall's east wing collapsing. The magical instability was accelerating. We need to evacuate the palace, Theron commanded. Clear everyone out before... No. Lyrian's voice carried unexpected authority. Evacuate the innocent. Servants, guards, anyone who showed kindness. But the nobles who participated in systematic oppression? They can choose. Flee now and lose everything, or stay and witness transformation. That's harsh, Dracos noted. That's justice, she replied. The throne room had been cleared of all but essential witnesses. Outside, evacuation proceeded as the palace shook with increasing violence. Cracks spread through ancient stone as 2 primordial magics fought for dominance. We have perhaps an hour, Theron said, watching golden light and living shadow chase each other across the walls. Less if the degradation accelerates. Then we should begin, Lyrian said, though uncertainty colored her voice. Wait. He caught her hand. Before we attempt this, you deserve complete honesty. The kingdoms didn't just randomly develop suppressants. My bloodline created them, centuries ago, to prevent other sundered souls from manifesting. We've been killing potential pairs for generations, maintaining power by ensuring no one could challenge us. Lyrian's third eye fixed on him. You knew this and still marked me? I knew it, and marked you because of it. Every crime my bloodline committed, every life destroyed by our system, it ends with us. Either we transform this world or die trying. She studied him through her mystical sight. That's your sacrifice. Your entire legacy. Everything your line built. Yes. And yours? My anonymity, she said softly. My ability to be invisible, unnoticed, safe in shadows. Once we bond, I'll be the most visible person in the Empire. Every eye watching, every decision scrutinized. Another explosion, closer this time. The western tower collapsed entirely. "They're here," Dracos announced urgently. "The advance forces from 3 kingdoms. They've broken through the outer defenses." Indeed, warriors poured into the throne room, not hundreds but dozens of elites, each bearing Shadowbane weapons. Lord Valdris led them, golden marks from Lyrian's earlier strike still visible on his skin but somehow inverted, turned into armor. "You think confession marks stop me?" he sneered. "They only revealed my true nature. I feel no shame for maintaining order. The sundered souls die tonight, just like every pair before you." "You've been hunting them," Lyrian realized. "For centuries, your coalition has murdered children who showed signs." "Preventing apocalypse," Valdris corrected. "Every unified pair either becomes tyrants or destroys everything. We maintain balance." "You maintain stagnation," Theron growled, stepping protectively before Lyrian. Warriors attacked from all sides. Theron's shadows lashed out while Lyrian's light created barriers, but separately they were weakening. Each defense drained them further. "We need to complete the bond now," Theron said, pulling Lyrian to the throne's base. "They'll kill us during the ritual." "Then we die together." He cupped her face. "I choose you, Lyrian. Not because prophecy demands it. Not because you can save me, but because in 3 years of absence you became the only presence that mattered." "And I choose you," she whispered. "Not for your power or position, but because your darkness doesn't frighten me. It calls to my light." Their lips met as Shadowbane blades struck their barrier. The bonding began. Not gentle, but cataclysmic. 2 halves of creation reuniting after millennia of separation. But Valdris had one final gambit. "Stop, or she dies." He held a blade to young Zara's throat, Lyrian's friend, barely 15, trembling in terror. The bonding wavered, balanced on the edge of completion. "Choose," Valdris demanded, "godhood or her life." Lyrian and Theron exchanged glances, perfect understanding passing between them through their near-complete bond. "You're right," Lyrian said calmly. "We choose." Instead of pulling the divine power inward to complete their ascension to godhood, they pushed it outward. The energy that would have made them supreme beings flooded through the throne room, through the palace, through the entire capital, spreading like wildfire across the empire. Every person touched by the wave experienced revelation. Suppressants didn't just dissolve, they reversed. Years of suppressed identity flooded back. Servants discovered they were alphas, nobles realized they were omegas, and some learned they were neither. They were something entirely new, categories that hadn't existed under the rigid binary system. Zara, the hostage, began glowing with silver light. She wasn't alpha or omega, but something called a sage, beings of pure wisdom thought extinct. Her power manifested as understanding, and she gently displaced Valdris's blade with thought alone. "What have you done?" Valdris screamed, watching his carefully ordered world collapse. "We've chosen truth over power," Theron said simply. "Freedom over godhood," Lyrian added. The bonding completed not in explosion, but in harmony. They stood in the ruined throne room, still themselves, but also more. Conduits through which divine power could flow to all, rather than gods hoarding power for themselves. Lyrian's blindness remained, but her third eye now perceived the entire empire simultaneously, every soul, every truth, every lie exposed. Theron's shadows no longer consumed but protected, spreading to shield the vulnerable while exposing the corrupt. "The kingdoms will unite against this chaos," Dracos warned, though his tone suggested awe rather than fear. "Let them come," Theron said. Around them, the newly awakened were gathering. Former servants stood as equals with former nobles, their true natures finally revealed. "We offer them a choice," Lyrian announced, her voice carrying to every awakened soul through the bond they now all shared. Join us in building something new, or cling to the old and fall with it. A former kitchen servant approached, someone Lyrian had known for years. Lady Lyrian, I'm an alpha. After 40 years believing I was a worthless beta, I'm an alpha. But I don't know how to be one. Then be yourself, Lyrian said gently. Alpha, Omega, Beta, Sage, or something unnamed. These are just facets of identity, not chains. Be whoever feels true. The sun set over the broken palace, painting ruins gold. The approaching armies were visible now. 7 kingdoms united against change. But in the courtyard, something unprecedented happened. Warriors from the attacking force began deserting, their own suppressants failing, their own truths revealed. The rigid structure they'd fought to maintain had imprisoned them, too. They'll call us monsters, Valdris said, defeated. History will remember you as the destroyers of civilization. History is written by the free, Lyrian replied, and we've just freed everyone. She felt Theron's hand in hers, shadow and light intertwined but distinct, bonded but individual. They faced the approaching armies but also the future beyond, a world where power came from choice, not suppression. Ready? He asked. I was born ready, she said, her third eye blazing with possibility. I just needed to be awakened to it. The sundered souls were whole at last, not as gods ruling from above, but as catalysts walking among equals. The old world ended that night, but from its ashes, something far more beautiful began to grow, a world where every soul could discover their truth, where power meant liberation rather than domination. The revolution didn't end with the bonding. It began with it, and for the first time in 3 millennia, the empire took its first breath of genuine freedom.